Hello, my name is Dave Walker and I am a coach and storyteller. And today, the story I wanted to share with you is called Do You Still Believe? No, not in the Easter Bunny, but in yourself. We're coming up on Easter, so a bit of a spoiler alert here. For those of you who still believe in the Easter Bunny, you might want to listen in on something else. For those of you who are looking at making and maintaining changes in your lives, you might find this a little bit more interesting. That is basically the general theme of a lot of my stories is making and maintaining change. A change is the only constant, and change can be pretty tough. In my book, I actually have come up with a top 10 list. Another David, so David Letterman. I've come up with my top 10 list of what were some of the change enablers that I was able to use to help me go through what has been a pretty big change in my life recently. Um, and believing in oneself and being a believer in yourself, in what you're up to, in your dreams, that came out as number 9. So my story about believing in oneself, which is often pretty tough to do. Um, you know, Change takes time, and as we're going through, we run into a lot of shady characters. Our inner critic, some people call them our gremlins. So we've got our inner critics, our gremlins coming out there and telling us not to believe anymore. Our brains are hardwired to be on the lookout for anything that could be dangerous. So we've often got even our own brain going in there and saying, "Are you sure that this is the route to go? This doesn't seem to make any sense. Nobody else is doing that." And then you got everybody else coming out as well. People who mean well, other people who might not mean as well, coming out and, again, looking at what more like what they believe through their own lenses, kind of, casting doubts on your beliefs as well. So all of these challenges as you're moving forward to keep believing in yourself. I know when I decided to make some pretty big changes in my life not too long ago. A big one being deciding to, after a long time in the corporate world, receiving my paycheck, here I was, in my 50s with a young family, decided that, I believe that there's something else that's a better fit for me. And I decided to go in to pursue that. So it's been a long journey for me. It's been about 3 years now. Starting up my own business. I'd never had my own business. I'm doing coaching. I'm doing storytelling. Like, who would have ever thought in my accounting days that here I'm going to become a storyteller? Like, what is a storyteller? So moving forward and continuing to believe in that and to really truly believe. It's one thing to say, I believe in this. It's another to really say, wow, do I really believe that this is, what's meant for me? So I've had my moments of doubts at times. There's been ups and there's been downs. So what have I been doing? What have I done um, to stay a believer? And I guess, you know, a couple of things that I've done, and I guess in my top 10 list, one of the tough things I've had in the top 10 list is the top 10, it's hard to just have one without the other. They all kind of come into interplay. And I would say one of the others that has really come in to help me in remaining a believer. I'm also a big fan of movies, so one of them is from one of my favorite actors, John Wayne, and it's all about grit. So one of them is grit. So grit is, for those of you who don't know what grit is, this is anyway my definition of it. It's a combination of perseverance and passion. So I've got this perseverance for some of the days when I'm not as big a believer, that keeps me going. And there's some days too when I've got that passion. I can get that sense, there's that flame there. It's not out, it's still going, but that passion that can also, if I can fan those passions, that also helps me continue to move forward until I get that belief kind of comes back to me. So that whole part around the grit, so that perseverance and that passion, how important they are. So the grit part. And by the way, one of John Wayne's movies, one of my favorites, was called True Grit. And being able to continue to move forward until that belief comes, because when I feel that belief, and I don't know if you have the same feeling, that believer that really makes a big difference in me being able to continue to move forward and really believe in myself. And until I get there, summoning up that, keeping that perseverance and that passion, one thing that's really helped out too is the courage. So I've actually got one of my favorite quotes, as you can see on my walls. I've got lots of quotes. I've taken one down. I'm going to put that back up in a sec. And it's by John Wayne, and this is one of his. It's called "Courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway." So I've got my picture of that right here. So you see, it's funny, you see the text backwards, but you've got the picture of the Duke, John Wayne, coming across in the same thing. So being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. I think that's a pretty good way sometimes to describe, what perseverance is all about. So anyhow, I thought I would share those with you. So for those of you who are moving on and making better lives for yourselves and making changes, for those of you who are thinking of starting to make new changes in your lives, I wish you a lot of courage, the grit, and to continue to move forward and to believe in yourself and what you're doing. And I wish you all a happy Easter as well. Cheers.